Hello everybody and welcome to this guide of the flashlight from Dead by Daylight. Upon initial look of this flashlight, the add-ons and use of the flashlight are pretty straightforward. You shine that light in the killer's eyes and he gets blinded. However, have you ever really taken the time to really understand the add-ons and what they really do for you? Well, today, that's what we're gonna find out. This guide will focus in two parts, starting with the numbers, allowing us to understand the flashlight and its add-ons, then provide you with a few tips on how to successfully blind and stun the killer. The following information was gathered through a few days of constant testing the flashlight with all the additional add-ons throughout several flashlights. Times were tested by hand, meaning there's room for a slight margin of error, but numbers used are the average outcome, giving us a pretty solid base on how to look at all the information regarding the flashlight. With these numbers, we'll be able to tell which add-ons are really worth it and which ones you can ignore. Additionally, please note that a lot of these numbers are rounded to the closest of the 10th digit they could be, and the percentages are as close as I could get them with the limited information that I had from the Dead by Daylight, well, anything. First, let's establish the base stats of the flashlight so we understand exactly what it does. The flashlight at base has 8 seconds of use time on it. It takes 1.8 seconds to blind the killer with direct eye contact, and the killer will be blinded for 1.5 seconds. The further away from the eyes you shine the light, the longer it takes. Hag traps are destroyed at a solid 1 second at the base of the flashlight stats. So now that we know what the flashlight provides, let's look onto the add-ons and stats you can alter to make the flashlight more powerful so you know exactly what kind of benefit you're getting from what add-ons. Let's begin with various bulbs that increase the beam's effectiveness against the killer. From what I could find, it only affects the blinding effects of the killer and not the light burn to the wraith. When stunned by the beam, it takes 1.8 seconds of light on the body of the wraith and stuns for 3.5 seconds. However, unlike the wraith, the hag traps are affected by the percentages, so using additional bulbs will break the traps faster. However, with the wraith, you are stuck at 1.8 seconds and a 3.5 second stun. So what this effectiveness means is it will reduce the time it takes to blind a killer and extend the length of the actual blind. Through a bit of testing, I was able to figure out what their broad vocabulary meant as far as the slightly, moderate, considerably, and tremendously increases meant. If you ever get confused, you can always refer to the screen as I'll put the numbers up in text as we go over them. A slight increase reduces the blind time by 0.2 seconds and increases the blind duration by 0.2 seconds. Moderate bonus increases the blind duration by 0.3 seconds and blind time by the same amount of 0.3. Considerable is a 0.4, as it is also 0.4 on the other side, and tremendously with a solid 0.5. These bonuses are based on a percentage of which I couldn't really get an exact percent. It seemed to be really close to starting at 12 from slight, being 27 at tremendous, but there's a little bit of rounding going in between, so I couldn't pinpoint it exactly, but these numbers should work as a good base for us to figure out how long these last. So then, with all these numbers down, what happens when we combine the bulbs into a single flashlight? The effects aren't as strong for the blind time as it is for the blind duration. When using both the intense halogen and odd bulb, the blind time starts at 1.8 and is first reduced by the largest bonus, which is tremendously from odd bulb, dropping our blind time to 1.3. Then it calculates the intense halogen, which takes from the 1.3 instead of our base of 1.8, which will only take us down to 1.1 seconds of blind time. Therefore, on a base flashlight, odd bulb, intense halogen, you have a 1.1 seconds time that it requires to blind the killer. Therefore, the percentage bonus from the lesser bulb is calculated second, giving it a weaker bonus. As for the blind duration, after you've blinded them after holding it into their eyes for 1.1 seconds, it's additive, so it increases by 0.4 seconds with the halogen bulb and then 0.5 from the odd bulb, giving us a solid 2.4 seconds of killer blind time. Now remember, when combining other bulb effects or lens add-ons, just remember that the blind duration will always go up by an additive amount, and when you combine the bulbs, they will work and they will stack as they say, just not as strongly as the duration, since it is a multiplicative instead of an additive effect. So let's look at the grips of our flashlight. We're able to have two types of grips added on, leather and rubber, which change your accuracy. Unfortunately, there was not some sort of numeric statistic I could come up for you, so I was able to just find a way to help explain this so you would understand exactly what kind of benefit these provide. When you aim the flashlight, there will be a bobbing motion where the survivors try to shine the light. With less accuracy, you have a larger impact of up and down motions while aiming the flashlight. By shining the light, you can reset the center of the light before it begins to bob, which makes this stat laughable. Simply just turn the light off and flick it back on to center it. There is one item that decreases the accuracy, which is the utility flashlight. It can make a minor impact on some people, I believe, but with a powerful blind time, it shouldn't matter for as long as you don't hold the light out for long periods of time. Plus, not to mention that your ability to just reposition it right back on the eyes with the bobbing motion should make it pretty easy. Moving on to battery add-ons, they really require no real explanation. They're just simply add-ons to the overall time of the flashlight, which can be used. However, there is a different stat that can be quite interesting: battery consumption rate. This is only affected by two add-ons, low amp filament and the odd bulb. The sports flashlight does take on a slight bonus to the item itself, and you'll be shocked by how little this truly affects flashlights, especially for the add-on that is meant to be an uncommon bonus. What this stat does is what it suggests. It changes the rate at which the charges are consumed on the battery, making it die faster or last longer. So looking at the low amp filament, it gives a moderate bonus to decreasing the rate of consumption. At the standard rate of 8 seconds, the battery is provided a 25 bonus to the life of its battery, giving it a 2-second bonus at base, which is a joke since the base battery, which is common, is a 2-second bonus to time. You can also put in a long life battery, which will give you 6 seconds on top of the 8 seconds of the standard battery, which will give you a total of 14 seconds of battery life. Placing a low amp filament with that will give you the moderate bonus of 25%, which is a total of 3.5 seconds in bonus to the battery life. If you didn't know, the heavy duty battery, which is also uncommon like the filament itself, lasts for a full 4 seconds, and it doesn't have to be combined with anything to get that 4-second boost. As far as the odd bulb is concerned, it also gives a moderate bonus, but instead of decreasing the battery rate, increases which it is consumed. Since it shares that moderate bonus, it's still 25%, which means you lose 2 seconds on the 8 standard, and with a long life battery, you'll lose 3.5 seconds off the total. You can only lose at most 3.5 seconds as the odd bulb is an add-on and it will increase how fast your battery is consumed. However, there's no other way to increase how much it is consumed. Instead, you could just prevent it from being consumed, or you can add the long life battery to just give it more life. Which brings up the point that we should probably avoid the low amp filament in the blood web, as it is going to be a waste of your points. It's actually rarer than a standard battery, which is common. The standard battery will give you the same bonus that the filament will do, but the filament is uncommon, meaning it will spread further into the blood web and take up more spots. This is also not a great way to counter the effects of oddball, because the common battery will only be 0.5 seconds less of a counter to the effects of draining the battery life. Now for the last add-ons, which are the lenses. They are the only pieces to this game that may alter the width and range of the light itself. I, however, again, could not pull anything to help describe how they work in numbers, but just so you know, wide lens will allow you to spread the hitbox over the surface area of the killer's face, so that if you are less accurate, it will help you keep directly on their eyes. And as said before, you do have to hit the eyes to get that instant 1.8 progress, else it will take longer to blind the killer. By widening your lens, you have a greater area to hit the eyes and ultimately blind the killer effectively. On top of changing the radius and range of the light, they also provide a slight bulb effect, although they're pretty weak in comparison to the rarity that they're provided. Likely because they do change the width of the light and range, but still, to the end, they're not as strong as the bulbs themselves. It seems that the focus lens provides the same slight bonus as a power bulb, and the high-end sapphire lens will provide the moderate bonus from the tier optic. If you can find yourself handling the small changes to the surface area of the light, then the lens can be used as bulb replacements if you don't have any more bulbs to put on the flashlight. Oh man, finally. We're done with the add-ons, moving on to the actual flashlights available. It's important to know that there is no real difference between each of the flashlights. They're all 8 seconds of life duration, all with a 1.8 second time to blind and 1.5 duration to blind. The difference between the flashlights is they come with passives that do alter the base stats. Sports flashlight decreases its battery consumption by a slight amount. Now we found out what the moderate amount was, which was 25%, and I discovered that the slight amount is literally half, meaning it's a 12.5%. So at base, at 8 seconds, it gives a 1 second increase to its overall life, which is 9 seconds of life at base. Then you'll have an increased accuracy, to which you just reduce the up and down bobbing, but again, that might be completely unnoticeable. Utility flashlight has to be one of my favorite, as its penalty is to the stat I can ignore and provides a powerful effect of one of the bulbs. It gives a moderate bonus, meaning it has the same bonus as a tier optic. This puts the flashlight at 1.5 seconds blind time and 1.8 seconds of duration right off the bat. If you combine both intense halogen and odd bulb to this item, you'll have the maximum strength of any flashlight at 0.9 seconds to blind and 2.6 seconds of the duration of the blind. So you learned all the numbers, let's apply it to in-game. You could potentially go in flailing about, but the killer would likely turn away and walk backwards, or sway side to side until they smack you upside the head for being so silly. So first, let's learn the different methods we can apply this to easily blind the killer. Our first method will be pallet blind. When a killer makes the active decision to break a pallet, they cannot change their mind to stop or move themselves. This makes their eyes a very easy target for your quick and accurate blind. From the pallet blind, you could simply run away, or you can sneak past them without them even knowing. When the killer is blind, they'll have to take a guess at where you're at or wait out the blind duration. During this time, you can actually sneak by them, giving them the slip. Now, it can be a bit tricky. Some killers will take a random swing to try to hit you, or they'll try to listen to footsteps or the click of the flashlight. It is common for a killer to take the random swing, so do be careful of their tantrum they can throw your way. To do this most effectively, time your movement and the flashlight properly. When you click off the flashlight, make sure that the sound has faded completely. That way the killer can't pick up which direction you started running after the loud click. I know that this sounds minimal, but I'm one of those killers that follows the clicking noise, and that's my tip to you as a killer main. Remember that they can also hear running and loud cries of pain easily, so if you take the risk of running by them and they might know you ran past, or you can walk by or slow crouch if you so choose, but that's only if you think you can get by before the killer can see you. Now remember, sometimes speed can be key, but walking by might just be as effective. Kind of guess on how the killer is searching you out, and if you think you can sneak by slowly, give it a shot. If not, full on run and see if you can trick him. The second style of getting an easy blind is the savior blind. Very much like the pallet blind, the killer will be stuck in a single position while picking up a survivor. However, unlike the pallet blind, this is going to be more attempting to stun the killer to save your ally. The stun cannot occur during the animation of picking up that survivor, however, they can be blinded beforehand. By shining the light into the eyes, you'll progress the blind to a near stun, but it will halt at a certain point until the killer is free to move. Once he is free to move, he will typically try to turn away. Do your best to keep it on his eyes. It's not always possible to keep it on his eyes, as they do this to prevent you from always stunning the killer. However, some killers overtake the turn and go too much, and then you can get another shot onto their eyes. Or if you have an ally standing behind them, it makes it near impossible for them to know, and they'll just turn into another flashlight. Even after a solid stun, you can keep the blind on them by keeping the flashlight on his eyes, allowing your ally to escape even further without the killer being able to see where they went. A few side notes before I wrap this up. It's important to remember that the light can affect the Wraith's invisibility anywhere on his body while he is invisible. Though it won't blind him, you will get a successful stun. You can still blind him while also stunning him out of his invisibility at the same time to get real nasty with the Wraith. The stun is a 3.5 second stun against an invisible Wraith. You can blind him after the fact as well, although he'll be looking down, so you have to get real close and gritty if you want to try to blind him during a stun. Hag traps can be broken easily by shining a light on them, and they have a very low time to break, and bulbs do increase the rate at which it breaks, but caps at about 0.5 seconds with the strongest flashlight. It's a 1 second at base to break. Also, multiple flashlights on a killer's eyes does reduce the time it takes to blind the killer, and keeping the flashlight on the eyes will keep the killer blind until you stop blinding him. You jerk. With that, I believe I covered as much as I could. Oh man. I want to thank those who participated in quite prolonged research of finding these numbers. I will hope that the official numbers will release sometime with how they affect the flashlight stats, but from what we gathered, the words they provide stay consistent with their benefit over the add-ons of the same type, at least, such as slightly, moderate, tremendous, considerable, kind of over the same add-on, and I would like to see if they stay consistent percentages throughout all items. So far, I've seen the number 12.5% show up on the word slightly quite often, so I'm wondering if all slightlys are 12.5%, but that's something that I'll have to research at another time. If you learned anything for this guide, please smash that like button and help me know that I've gathered the proper information for you. If you feel this can help others, please share it with them, as I wish to help spread this information as far as possible. Is there something else you want a guide for? Suggest it down below, or if there's corrections, I'd be happy to pin your correction at the top of my comments. I may not be completely perfect, but I got as close as I could. Don't forget to subscribe, and as always, good game.